All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Horn Takes podcast, your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Tuesday. It's a short week for us. This will be our last show of the week. Y'all, I got to take my wife out of town for her birthday weekend. So we're going to knock out this week. And that's cool because we don't have a whole lot to talk about this week, I don't think. Not enough that we can't just do some videos on TikTok or something like that. Today, we're going to have a very special edition of Trace Otra Games, Army-Navy edition for that Army-Navy game that's coming up on Saturday. Folks, I'm a veteran, was in the Army for just over 4 years. I know a lot of you folks out there are veterans. It's a big weekend for Army and Navy people. It's like the only time you see Army and Navy people get hyped up about anything except blowing stuff up is this rivalry game. So we'll do a prediction on the Army Navy game. We'll have the after action review for the Big 12 championship game. The verdict is in on that one, folks. And then we'll talk a little bit about the transfer portal and just how absolutely out of control it is. I'm sure I will not be able to cover all of it, but that's just the way it goes. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, whatever you do on those different platforms. We would appreciate it. It won't cost you guys a thing. If you just like to listen to podcasts, you don't like to watch ugly dudes in orange all day long, but you like to listen to what I have to say, you can check me out on horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com or anywhere you listen to podcasts. By the way, I'm wearing a Texas ice hockey jersey today. One, because I like it. Two, because I just saw on Twitter today, and it was kind of interesting because I was thinking about it the other day. I would like to have ordered another jersey. They did a jersey promo a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. Not 100% sure. Fairly recently, and I'm 46 years old, so you can just see how relevant a couple years are to a 46-year-old. Seems like last week, but they did this sale. I ordered one. I really like it. It's really good quality. Got some cool patches on it. Got the Texas patch on it. Got a UT patched on it. Obviously has the Longhorn logo on the front. And then I've got my name and a personalized number. I'm 65. So I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, saw this morning they're doing another sale. So go over to Texas Ice Hockey on Twitter if you're interested. And I don't wear jerseys all the time. And in fact, I have a football jersey. I never wear it out in public. Wear it sometimes on the show. And then I have a bunch of hockey jerseys for some reason. And I just like hockey jerseys. I don't know why. Anyhow, check them out. You can order them. They're a couple $100. I'm almost certain some of the proceeds go to the team. So that's helpful for the Texas ice hockey team. So if you're a Texas fan out there that likes ice hockey, you like ice hockey jerseys, or you just want to try something new, check that out on Twitter at Texas Ice Hockey. Or you can go to my profile at Horn Takes. I shared or quoted their little deal this morning. Anyway, I ordered two. I ordered a cream one and another one like this. And on the back is not going to be my last name. It's going to be Horn Takes Podcast. So we're kind of excited about that. It takes a while to come in, but who cares, right? It's like a double present because you get excited because you bought yourself something, and then you forget about it because it's like a few weeks later, and then all of a sudden you get this package and you're like, what the hell is this? You open it up, bam, Texas Ice Hockey jersey, customized. They also have ones that you don't have to customize that are a little bit cheaper, and they've got some hoodies and stuff on there too. I think their store doesn't stay open all the time, so I think if you want to, I think you need to make a decision about what you want to do. It's be good Christmas presents, by the way. Anyhow, I'll quit plugging Texas ice hockey a little bit after this next sentence. I think they're really good. I don't know what league they're in. I follow them on Twitter. They're like ranked in the top 10 of something, top 5 of some league. If anybody knows, shoot me an email or check me out on Twitter and send me a message. Again, all that stuff is at Horn Takes. Trace Otra Games, Army, Navy game. I'm looking to go 29-15 this season. We're 28-15 right now in Trace Otra Games. We got our asses handed to us on championship weekend. We're looking to bounce back. So we got Army, Navy in Foxborough, Massachusetts. I think sometimes they play this game in Philly. Not sure why. Maybe it bounces back and forth. I'm not 100% sure why. Anyway, it's going to be cold probably. This one kicks at 2 p.m. Central on CBS. Army's currently a 2.5 point favorite. Folks, this is the 124th meeting of Army Navy. That's got to be one of the older rivalries in the country for sure. Think about 120. I mean, they played in what, 1900 for the first time? I don't know if it's consecutive. I'm assuming it's consecutive. I should have researched that. It's my fault. I can't tell you guys the answer. Navy leads the series 62 games to 54 games, and then there's 7 ties. Army's on a 1-game winning streak in this series, and the series is tied 5-5 over the last 10 games. But if you go back 20 years, Navy has a commanding lead in this one, 15-5 over Army. There were some really dark years for Army there, apparently. And at one point, Navy had won 14 games in a row. And that is the longest win streak in this series. Army's 5-6 coming in. And they got a notable win over number 17 Air Force. I don't know where Air Force is ranked now. At the time, they were ranked 17th. And this was a few weeks ago. So a lot can change in a few weeks, obviously, in college football. Ask Florida State. But they're looking to make a clean sweep of the military academies this year. Navy's 5-6, and they have absolutely no notable wins. They barely even have a notable game, but certainly no notable wins. Not surprisingly, both of these offenses rank in the top 15 in rushing, and they rank in the bottom 3 in pass offense. And matter of fact, it's the 3 service academies that are the last 3 teams in passing in the country, which is weird because I thought I saw earlier this year that Air Force had kind of gone to more of a spread attack. Maybe I dreamt that, or maybe it was for one specific game. Maybe they just run it out of a spread attack. I don't know. Just didn't look like the Air Force you're used to seeing. Or maybe it was Navy that did it. Hell, I don't know. We're going to find out on Saturday. Navy only gives up 121 yards per game on the ground. Army gives up 180 yards per game. Army did rush for 218 yards against a surprisingly really, really good Air Force run defense. They only give up 96 yards per game today. Army scoring 20 points per game, Navy scoring 18 points per game. Both teams give up about 20 points per game on defense. I think all of those things factored in, and folks, I'm going to be 100% honest. I saw Navy play for about 10 minutes against Notre Dame, and that's all I needed to watch that bullshit. And then I have not seen Army play at all this season. But if you look at those statistics, it looks like we're going to get another classic low-scoring, tight ball game out of the Army-Navy game. 7 of the last 10 have been one-score games. I think you look at this one for both teams. They're not only battling for the pride of winning the Army-Navy game for their senior classes, but they're also fighting for bowl eligibility. So this is going to be a knockdown drag out. This is one of those. I mean, I think this game is always a knockdown drag out. There's very rarely a blowout in this game. And I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that just the type of offenses both of these schools run. I think you can be considerably better than another team and run a really conservative offense, and the score just doesn't reflect all the time how much better you are. So when you get a blowout in one of these games, it's like a country ass kicking. I think Army's going to get it done 20-17 over Navy this year. Go Army, beat Navy. That is our Trace Otra game, Army-Navy edition pick. So we'll see what happens. After action review on this Texas Longhorns Big 12 championship shellacking of Oklahoma State in Arlington over the weekend. Listen, we had 4 keys and obviously a prediction headed into this game. Key number 1 was take Ollie Gordon out of the game. And I know Texas got a good run defense, but I wasn't sure they were going to be able to completely take Ollie Gordon. I think what it is I thought they would kind of neutralize him, but they just absolutely, like literally took that guy out of the game. I mean, he had 13 carries for 34 yards, 0 touchdowns. 2.6 yards per carry. He did get 4 catches for 54 yards, but again, no scores. And most of those catches were kind of, at the end of half, late in the game type stuff. Not a lot of press coverage, not a lot of tight coverage. Basically just, hey, the snap happens, we all back up, come up, make a tackle. That's what a lot of his catches were, check down type things like that. So absolutely, Texas 100% met that key. And I think that was a huge key. I think if Oklahoma State could have kept him going, and if they could have established the running game with Ollie Gordon, that game looks totally different. Key number 2, we said Texas needs to pound the rock. We talked about the last 2 weeks, over 400 yards rushing combined. Lots of different guys getting lots of carries and showing out. Like, so the 4th and 5th guy on the depth chart to start the season, the 6th guy at the start of the season on the depth chart, they're like ripping it up in these last 2 games when they get their opportunities. So obviously, you go into a game against a defense like Oklahoma State's that's just not good against the run. I think they were giving up, I think we said 192 yards a game. They were like 102nd in the country in stopping the run. You want to be able to come in and establish the run. I think they did a good job. I mean, they didn't like rack up tons of yardage, but they had 40 carries for 198 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I felt like they really controlled the second half with the running game. I mean, we saw them score 35 in the first half and then 14 in the second half. And really, that was a lot just because they just weren't trying. I mean, they were utilizing the pass very sparingly in the second half. Kind of only when needed, and maybe to mix it up every once in a while just to keep Oklahoma State just a tad bit off balance. So through 2 keys and our 2 most important keys, man, I felt like Texas nailed them on Saturday. Key number 3 was hit the deep ball. I guess 1 for 3 ain't bad. I don't know what to say about. I feel like at some point this postseason, Texas is going to have to make some big game-changing type plays through the passing game and over the top. And the ball to Mitchell that he caught and ran so far before the ground tackled him was certainly a big play. I know these guys have the ability to house it though, and I know Worthy can take a pass, literally at the line of scrimmage and go for 50 yards or whatever it was he did. But I think you got to stretch the field and you got to prove that you can stretch the field. So it's hard to be upset with that passing performance at all. I mean, you just really can't do it. But I think, again, always room for improvement. And I think for the Texas pass offense, that's where they can improve the most, is hitting that deep ball. So we're 2-1 through 3. The 4th key for us was play 4 quarters. We have seen all throughout the year Texas either start slow and finish strong, or start strong and finish slow. Haven't really seen this Texas team up until the last couple of weeks of the season really put together a whole game. And they did it again on Saturday. So I think, you look at it, that's 2 or 3 games in a row where they've just played really strong, stayed in the game, stayed focused, continue to make plays and not just let the game finish. The defensive intensity never wavered through 4 quarters. They gave up some big plays. But the effort was there. They were never like, the game's over, we're cool. Again, we talked about it a minute ago. The offense kind of leveled out after just a, I mean, that's like a NCAA college football video game start they had. That shit was just insane. So they had a ridiculously fast start, and it leveled off from there. But that was all by design. Sark wants to get a big lead, and then he wants to finish the game on the ground, get the clock done, and go home. Texas was 100% content with where they were coming out of the locker room at halftime and just running the football. And then they ended up getting 2 scores with it. So going to predictions, the Horn Takes podcast score predictor had this one at 38-15, which we thought was too crazy. We said 27-23. That's Sean's prediction. Obviously, Texas wins this game 49-21. So the Horn Takes podcast score predictor it beats me every time. It's smarter than me every time. But I created it. Just remember that, Horn Takes Podcast score predictor. Offensively, you look at this game, look at the statistics. It's like eye-popping, man. 662 yards of offense. That is nuts. That is crazy. 464 through the air, 4 touchdowns through the air, 198 on the ground, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Texas racked up 33 first downs. And this is the one that's like the most interesting to me and something that I wouldn't have expected. Texas possessed the ball for 40 minutes in this game. So they just had control of this game the entire time. They were 10 of 16 on third downs, 2 of 2 on fourth downs, 5 for 5 in the red zone, and all of them some bitches were touchdowns. Congratulations. The red zone touchdown curse is over with. The Texas Longhorns go 100% against Oklahoma State in the red zone on Saturday. That doesn't bode well for the rest of the country, folks. Pass protection, I thought, was really good. We talked about that yesterday on Exaggeration Monday. I was right. Only 1 sack allowed. And it was kind of like, Ewers was scrambling, getting out of the pocket, and it looked like he was trying to make a decision whether to throw or run, and the guy just clipped his foot. So it was really a Quinn Ewers ran from the protection, and he ran from the protection because he had to. So, the protection wasn't perfect, obviously, but it was just one of those odd sacks. I wouldn't count that against either Quinn Ewers or the offensive line, to be perfectly honest. Here's another really, really interesting set of numbers from this game, which I didn't realize because, again, you're watching it live. You just get a different perspective watching it live or watching it on TV. Texas had touchdown drives of 84 yards, 77 yards, 95 yards, 82 yards, 79 yards, and 88 yards. That is fucking incredible. If you have a definition of efficient, well-oiled machine offense, that's the numbers that go out beside it. Unbelievable. Really, really outstanding performance offensively by these Texas Longhorns on Saturday and really the last couple weekends. The players that popped in this game, obviously Quinn Ewers, 35 for 46 for 452 yards, 4 touchdowns, ties a Big 12 record in touchdowns in a game. And again, they could have blown that shit out of the water. They sat on the ball pretty much the entire second half. He had all 4 touchdowns in the first half. 452 yards was a Big 12 championship game record for passing yards. And he did all that on 76% completion percentage. Did have the one ugly interception. We talked about that yesterday. I was right on that too. It was like a shallow cross, and he just didn't let Worthy clear. Threw it too soon. I don't know if he felt like he was feeling pressure. There really wasn't any pressure. I think he just saw Worthy what he thought was break open, which wasn't open, and he never even saw that linebacker and literally just threw it right into his chest. So if you noticed, and I noticed because I noticed things, later on in the game, they went right back to that play. Worthy did clear, dumped it off to him, big gain. I want to say it was the play that Worthy just absolutely steamrolled. I don't know who it was from Oklahoma State, but just freaking drove his helmet through his chest. I think it was on that play. Same exact play. Keelan Robinson, 4 carries for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 20 yards in the game. Man, just a heck of a game. Good to see Keelan Robinson really show out these last 2 games as a senior. That dude is crazy talented, and he transferred to Texas. He ends up playing a very specific role behind 2 guys that go to the NFL from the same year at the University of Texas. Then, if you're Keelan Robinson, you might be thinking, man, I'm going to get a shot. I'm going to get a shot to be the feature guy this year. And no, you're not, because Cedric Baxter comes in. You got Jonathan Brooks ahead of him. You got Jaden Blue, who's having a really good second half of this season. Just a lot of talent in that running back room. And kudos to Keelan Robinson for never sort of wavering from just being who he is, putting in the work, doing what Coach Sark and the rest of the team asked him to do. and it's starting to pay off for him. I think that dude is crazy talented, really fast, really shifty, great hands out of the backfield. I think he might end up, let's see how these playoffs go, but if he stays on this trajectory that he's on right now, I think he could open some eyes in the NFL and get some invites to camps. And then from there, you just never know. I think, you got these guys that go to camps that nobody's ever heard of and end up making teams and then having really great careers in the NFL. So I think the key, if you really want that, is to earn the invite, and then just you kind of have to see what happens from there. I'll be pulling for Keelan Robinson. I love that dude. I think it's awesome again that he's come to Texas, thinking he might have done something that he just didn't get an opportunity to do, but he always shows up and plays hard. JT Sanders, the other guy that popped for the offense for me, 8 catches, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. JT Sanders made a lot of plays in this game to keep the chains moving. There was a couple of tight end screens that they ran where he was able to pick up some pretty big yardage that kept drives going. He had the jet sweep on 4th down at one point in the game to keep the game going. He had a 4th down catch later on or earlier than that. I don't know. I don't remember the exact order of these 2 plays, but there were definitely 2 4th down plays that Texas ran. JT Sanders was the target or the runner on each of them, picked up a 1st down. He had a really nice contested grab over the middle of the field earlier in the game. He just has really amazing hands, and he is just sickly athletic. So again, I mean, can't say enough about JT Sanders, obviously. The defense, man. The defense was really, really good in this game. 281 total yards given up, 250 through the air, 31 on the ground total. And that's huge, man. I mean, not only did they hold the nation's leading rusher to 34 yards, everybody else got -3 yards. They did hit a few big plays on us. Kind of Jahdae Barron, man. I love him. He kind of I wouldn't say he got exposed. I would just say he did not have a great game against against Oklahoma State on Saturday. Really gave up some big plays and coverage. In fact, you look at that game, and I think every big play, Jahdae Barron was either on coverage or should have been helping over the top. I don't know what that pretends. Probably nothing. But it was just very interesting. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he was injured. Who knows? I have faith that Jahdae Barron will come back and handle his business as they go forward. This defense had 2 takeaways, interception, really nice catch by Keaton Crawford, and then a very outstanding strip sack or strip fumble type play for Anthony Hill Jr. They were knocking the ball loose all afternoon. They called a lot of them incompletes. I think a couple of those might have warranted a closer look. Not sure. I mean, those are such bang plays. I will say there were 2 plays though where Oklahoma State receivers, pass catchers, had both hands on the ball right when they got smacked and the ball came loose. So I don't know. Both were called incomplete passes on the field. Oklahoma State was only 3 for 10 on 3rd down. However, they were 3 for 3 in the red zone, all 3 touchdowns, which is very uncharacteristic for this Texas defense. Usually, this Texas defense gets them down in the end zone or near the end zone, and that's when they tighten up. They're the best in the country. They may not be after that game, but coming into the game, they're one of the best. I think they were the best in the country. Texas only had 1 sack. We talked about, can they get this Alan Bowman guy down on the ground? Only had the 1 sack, and it was on a bad snap, so it really technically wasn't a sack. Players that popped for me defensively, Anthony Hill Jr. led the team in tackles with 6, had a tackle for loss, had a sack. He got credit for being there, I guess, when Alan Bowman fell on the ball. And then the 1 forced fumble. But he's a guy that's, again, he's just all over the field, man. He's starting to figure it out. He's violently violent, and I love it. He's just a The other thing that's interesting about him, he gets up from these plays, and you look at the guys that he's tackling, and a lot of times these are like studs, and he is just so much bigger than them, so much more well put together, and he's just a kid. He's going to be an absolute menace in a couple years at the University of Texas. I think players that pop that defensive line, no stats at all hardly for that group, but they were a huge factor in keeping Ollie Gordon bottled up all afternoon, taking him out of the game. They did that. They also got some pressure on the quarterback, man. They didn't, again, no true sacks, but especially early in the game, they got Bowman rolling out of the pocket, running for his life, throwing the ball away. I thought they did a good job of maybe, not pressuring him into bad decisions so much, but just being around the whole time. They were like consistently around that dude all day. And I think that, sacks are great. Bad plays where you hit them and they throw an interception, those are obviously great types of plays. But I think just being around a guy consistently just throws their whole world off. And then I think the other guy that popped for me was Manny Muhammad. 4 solo tackles. They asked him to play some really tight coverage. He did a great job. He had a pass breakup on 3rd down early in the game. That guy's come a long way. He's a sure tackler. And he's another, true freshman guy that's just gotten better and better as the season's gone on. Special teams, Burt Auburn missing a field goal and Derek Williams targeting penalty were literally the highlights of the game from a special teams perspective. We always talk about is Drunk Sean right, is Drunk Sean wrong? I was right on most everything that I talked about on Exaggeration Monday. And again, the verdict is in on this team. We've been talking all season about, should we say this team is elite? Should we say, one group on this team is elite? Man, that was a really, really dominant performance. At the game, you're just into the game, and you're just having a blast. You really don't. I really didn't realize. I won't speak for everybody, but I didn't really realize just how dominant of a performance it was until I rewatched it last night, and then I started looking at some stats last night and early this morning. Wow. Country ass kicking. That's the only way you can describe that, and that's what happened on Saturday. And that's the second week in a row they've done that. So you talk about peaking at the right time and playing your best football at the right time. I think Texas is absolutely doing that. We'll just see how it holds up going into the playoffs. Transfer portal is completely out of control. It's been out of control, but man, I think this year has got to be the most out of control. The portal opened yesterday, and it's just an absolute nut roll. Real quick, though, before we get into all the nut rollness, there are a couple of notables from the Texas side. Redshirt freshman defensive back Xavion Bryce entered the transfer portal. He's a 2022 class guy. Just never really got a lot of reps at Texas, but now he's certainly losing reps to guys from the 2023 class. And so he decided, I think, to move on and try his luck somewhere else, which is fine. We understand that. So good luck to Xavion Bryce as he moves on. Hopefully finds another place to land, and hopefully, it's a good fit for him. He gets some playing time. And then this one's the surprising one. And this one's like an interesting story even. Senior and Arkansas transfer Jalen Catalon. So he came over from Arkansas in the offseason. A lot of people were excited about him. This guy was an all-SEC guy, I believe, as a freshman, but then just kind of got caught up with the injury bug and just never could stay healthy. He came over to Texas with a shoulder problem, so it was well into fall camp before, anybody was even willing to say he's ready to go and he's going to play. And he started the season at safety and played a lot early. Got hurt in that Red River shootout game, and then just kind of hasn't played much at all since then. He's played in I saw some graph. CJ Vogel's on Twitter. For those of you guys that don't follow him, he's a pretty good follow for Texas sports. Does a lot of sort of short video analysis and also is a big time stat dude. After the games, he posted something. He posted something up yesterday, I believe, Catalan's only played in 16% of Texas's defensive snaps all season, and he hasn't played a snap in it's either 5 of 6 or 6 of 7 of the last game. So a lot of hand wringing about Catalan jumping in the portal, but really he hasn't played hardly at all this season, and certainly not much down the stretch in Big 12 play. So I don't know. You certainly don't like to see guys leave. And you certainly don't like to see quality depth leave. But I don't know how big of a blow this is necessarily going to be to Texas, just on the field. One interesting note is Sark is supposedly allowing the guys that say they want to go into the transfer portal to continue with the program through the playoffs, something he normally doesn't do. Normally, his stance is, you want to get in the portal, that's fine, but you've played your last down at the University of Texas. I got to think part of that is just, hey, those guys were part of this, and we want to give them the opportunity to be with the team and finish this. The other side of it, I think, is probably, in his best interest as well to keep guys, because there's gonna be some guys that leave the program, and that's just the way it goes. It happens at all programs. Anytime you have a lot of success and you bring in a lot of good players, you're gonna have guys that get passed over, and these are young guys and they don't get it yet, and so a lot of them are just completely unwilling to stay and fight for a position and continue to better themselves. They'd rather go somewhere else and get a fresh start, and sometimes that's okay too. I'm not trying to dog anybody for their decisions, but again, that's just not something Sark would normally do. But I heard reporting was that Catalan cleaned his locker out, so to me, that doesn't sound like, he's on board with being with the team. We'll see how that goes. I have no idea. The big news, I feel like, in the portal this year, well, there's a couple of big stories, but the QB carousel, man, 9 quarterbacks already in the portal. And listen to these notables: Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, DJU, who just transferred from Clemson out to Oregon State this last season. He's in the portal again. Kyle McCord, the starting quarterback at Ohio State. This is 3 starters we've just talked about. 3 guys that probably are the starter for their team next year. And then Tyler Buckner, this is the funniest one of all. This kid's at Notre Dame last year, has terrible stats, follows his offensive coordinator down to Alabama, gets 1 shot to play this year, was absolutely terrible. He has decided to transfer. He's going to transfer back to Notre Dame, but he's not playing football anymore, folks. He's playing lacrosse. And apparently, he was a really, really highly coveted lacrosse player in high school as well. So maybe that's the best decision he could make. But Tyler Buckner, gone from Alabama. What's going on with Ohio State? 10 players, as of writing up this layout, breakout, outline, whatever the hell you call it, this morning, 10 players in the portal, including the starting QB, lots of highly rated guys, one of their highest rated wide receivers in the portal. So what's going on? You just don't see that at established programs with good culture. I think something's going on. Going back to Ryan Day flipping his shit about Lou Holtz earlier in the season, I just got to feel like something's weird going on in Ohio State. And then you got Aggie with 9 guys in the portal, including Max Johnson and Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan is a beast at the defensive tackle position. So you look at Ohio State and you look at, everybody has transfers. You look at Ohio State, you look at Aggie right now, and the next one we're going to talk about, these are all these are starters that are leaving. You just don't see that much. OU with 9 guys in the portal, again, including Dylan Gabriel and their top running back. So and there's a lot of other guys. I mean, there's just a lot of dudes that have decided to go into the portal. Guy from USC, really highly rated guy. Guy from South Carolina. Juice something or other. I think he was a transfer into South Carolina this last Juice Wells. There's a big wide receiver class right now, and I'm told, not told, I read Texas is like really considering about a half a dozen of those guys. So I don't know, man. The portal has got a lot of really good players in it this year. We'll see what happens. I wonder if Dion gets any of them. Probably not. Here's the thing about the transfer portal, man. It is such a gamble for these young guys, and we talked about this last season. Most of these dudes transferring out, in the portal, they're not elite players. There are some this year, and there have been a handful every single year. But most of these kids they're transferring because they got passed on the depth chart. They just weren't getting playing time. So again, these are guys, and the thing that goes against these guys, most of these guys, there's no film on them. They're hardly getting to play, if at all. The recruiting process is gone. Like they've been out of the recruiting process for a year, sometimes 2 years. The coaches kind of forget about them. There's all these new high school players to look at. It's becoming a really, really hard job for college football coaches just to understand like who the good players are out there. And if I'm a college coach, I'm probably going to gamble more on a kid in high school that's an elite recruit in high school than I am a guy that was was an elite recruit but couldn't hack it at college and wants to leave and go someplace else. Because to me, those are both gambles. One of them's already proved to you that they don't have what it takes at this point in their career to get on the field at a D1 school. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Shoot me an email at horntakespodcast.gmail.com or at gmail.com, rather. Let's have a conversation about it. Here's the other thing about the portal. According to the NCAA transfer portal statistics, and you can find this online, roughly 40% of active transfer portal entrants have not found a new member institution from the 2022 wave of transfers. In 2021, it was over 40%. So I guess you could say in a small sample of a couple years, it's trending the right direction, but that's still an incredible amount of kids. Basically, if 100 kids enter the transfer portal, 40 of them don't find another place to play. That means they don't get a scholarship. That means they traded a scholarship for the opportunity to maybe get a scholarship. And I get it. In some cases, these guys were processed. And if you don't know what that means, that's just what people started saying when Nick Saban started telling people to leave so he could get these bigger recruiting classes back in the day at Alabama before the transfer portal was a thing. Nick Saban processed a lot of players. So this isn't a new thing. And that does happen. I know these guys, these coaches are having conversations with these players and they're saying, hey, you're welcome back maybe, but here's the deal. You're fourth on the depth chart. Or they go to another guy and they say, we're just not going to fulfill your scholarship for next year. If you want to play college football, you're going to have to go somewhere else to do it. That happens 100%. But I think this whole portal thing makes it easier to do that because now these coaches know I get to add another recruit. If I get these guys out of here, I can bring in more guys into a recruiting class, or I can go to the portal and find some guys as well. Excuse me, folks. My throat is just jacked this time of year. So I think it's risky business when, you say, I'm going in the portal. Because you might not find some place to land. And then you're kind of trading like this dream to be in the NFL for like a decent education. Like at some point, if the school will have you, some of these guys just need to realize they're not going to be big-time college football players. They're not going to be big-time NFL football players. And I'm not saying that to say that they should quit. But if you're not good enough to get on the field over here at Texas, you're not good enough to even go down to, Texas State and show out. The problem is not where you're at. The problem is you're not putting the work in to get to where you want to be. Man, I love the transfer portal in theory. I mean, I think the reason it even came about was to kind of, it kind of came from some needs from coaches that just started upping and leaving. These coaches would take jobs and then quit jobs and go to another job and quit that job. So these coaches are going all over the place, and there's no rules for them. Got schools getting in trouble with the NCAA, getting all these, all these rulings coming down from the NCAA, and team, that ruins the whole thing for all those kids. They should be able to transfer. It's good now that these kids that do get processed, they don't have to go sit out a year. They can go be eligible immediately one time. But they got to figure out a way to regulate it, man. It's gone from like again, it's like so many other things in life. There's a problem. People overreact to try to solve that problem without considering all the problems that their problem solving is going to cause. And that's where we're at today. With NIL and with transfer portal, we fixed a problem and we created so many other problems because they hastened themselves into a fast fix of the original problem. So you got all these lax rules in the transfer portal, all these NIL lax rules. You got guys leaving schools now just because, like, it's money. Like, I had a good season, I'm leaving. They're not going to pay me here. They can't pay me here, so I'm leaving. Got guys leaving because position coaches are leaving. The team's not good. Like, I thought the team would be better. That's Texas A&M. You got all these kids wanting to leave Texas A&M now because the team sucks. You got more and more starters leaving today than I think we've ever seen. And I get it, man. The problem used to be the institutions themselves had too much power over the whole, player, from a name, image, and likeness to keeping them there on campus after they signed scholarship. Like, they had all the power. But now I feel like the pendulum has swung way further over to the player side than it should be. I mean, you got to have some order of things, right? So I feel like we just need a lot more equitable control over the whole thing. And I'm sure the portal hasn't gotten as crazy as it's going to get. It's going to continue to be just a nut roll until it's closed. All right, guys, we'll be back next week to start our coverage of the Sugar Bowl matchup with the Washington Huskies. We'll also have more on a lot of other bowl games. National Signing Day is right around the corner, so we'll do some recruiting stuff as well. December 20th, I believe, is National Signing Day. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Won't cost you guys a thing. We appreciate the support. Email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. We will miss you guys. Y'all have a good rest of the week. I'm going to wine country. You guys get hooked.